It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, Tokwe, how are you doing?
I'm very good. Very, very grateful to God. Over the weekend was Netflix and chill weekend.
Oh, nice.
And I was putting together my slides. I'm going to be doing a training. I'll be teaching next week, Sunday. So I have been blessed with mentors on my journey in real estate. And I realized that some people don't understand how to relate with someone you want to mentor you because you don't know what you're looking for. And the person said doesn't know what they're going to teach you. So there must be an intention with your building that relationship, and there must be a constant drive to water and then draw from the well of knowledge. So I'll be taking a mentorship. I'm launching a program, Women in Real Estate, and the goal is to mentor a very small group of people into moving from whatever field you're in into being an investor or a developer in the real estate space. You know, nice. So I'm excited about the opportunity.
Well, that's fantastic. Good. I think, was it your mentor was in a church on Sunday, and he was saying there's one thing to have so much information, it's another thing to actually start having people you can actually mentor and teach. So you have all this knowledge, start sharing. So I think that's what you're doing right now. So you have a lot of knowledge, now you're sharing. Good.
I'm trying to do that.
Alaja Nimat Akasha Zibiri, how are you doing?
I'm grateful. I'm still behind my mothering duties. So most of us have been overworking and neglecting or shifting my mothering duties behind. But thanks to Miriam, we were able to start. On Sunday, I had to cancel on Saturday. My children finally,
She's talking about
got a swimming opportunity. So they're excited.
In this cold weather?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, wow.
In fact, it's double for them because now they can cope. Because I was explaining to
They found
them
a place they can go and
how
swim.
water is warm when it's cold weather and how water is cold when it's hot weather, when it is below the earth. So I was explaining well and all of that to them. They don't know all of that, but I'm grateful. I'm catching up small. This week, by Thursday, Friday, we're going to face our mother work duty.
That's
good.
good.
To school.
That's good.
They resume school. I've not been to school with them this week, term. I'm going to do all that I need to do this week, hopefully.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Mariam?
Oh, good. So, talking about mothering duties, I was feeling so bad last week, like, I might resuming school, and I had not done any of the shopping for her. Anyway, I was able to ship her to school that Monday morning. Guess what? School did not resume until this Monday. So once I was behind, I was way ahead. But it was, good weekend. The boarder came home for the weekend, and then he's gone back. He was
How was his birthday party?
Oh, he had a little thing in school, in the hostel, so he enjoyed that. And then when he came back, he was rushing us, please, we need to go back, I was like, I'm telling you. Nice. So I have now relaxed. Before I was, a bit anxious, but now I'm relaxed. I'm like, you can sort yourself out.
It's good, it's good. Yeah, my weekend, your kids came over. I mean, they had... You know, you have children, they are in their whole world. It's like their whole...
I was worried.
I was worried because they have no TV, have no internet. So I'm thinking, what are these kids going to do? But they found a way to sort themselves out.
But that is valid. When my son or my kids go to other people's home, they have like all the games.
Gadgets and all that.
But we don't have that, and I don't recommend it for them. So what do you do to entertain their own friends when they come to your house?
So that's what happened. I was worried. I'm like, your kids will have, because my kids, they know that, listen, play with yourself with the bricks and things.
Or read books.
Well, they get tired sometimes of reading. They just play with bricks, or they play with themselves, The twins are always fighting. So I have to force them to be friends. So they have to force, both boy and girl must be friends. So when the kids are, I'm like, hey, what would they do? But eventually, because our neighbors still had kids similar ages, so they had shuffling.
All of them, they were like,
house to house.
It was
my help's birthday. We got her a cake and drinks. So there were lots of things to eat in the house.
That's a full party.
So it was a party. Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Okay, let's go into the papers. Let's start with The Nation. 210 days after federal government asked court to stop ASU strike. Nigeria's debt stocks hit 45.25 trillion naira. Will retire political tourist Atiku to Dubai, says Shetima. Wanted, Nigeria risks 621-year jail term over alleged $30 million fraud. Supreme Court depleted as Justice Aboki retires. 6 feared killed in attack on Uba's convoy. Brazilian returnee excretes 92 wraps of cocaine. 19-year-old student commits suicide and bandits demand 50 million naira to free woman. Okay.
Major headline.
Major headline, go ahead.
The Minister for Labour and Employment in the Federal Cabinet has decided to exercise his powers under the Trade Dispute Act. And on behalf of himself and the federal government, he has taken ASU to the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, asking the court to order ASU and their members to resume work immediately, 210 days after saying that it is costing and jeopardizing the national educational system. And he has all the acts that is relying on to compel ASU to resume, saying that also all efforts of the federal government to meet ASU's demand and resolve the issues have been to no avail. And so they're asking the National Industrial Court, and there is a provision of National Industrial Court that ASU cannot now say they were not notified. That section says that no matter who, on behalf of or how the process was served on ASU, ASU must enter appearance, and the matter comes up for mention in court today. So we hope that ASU shows up. But ASU, I think, in other papers have their SANs and lawyers who are prepared to enter appearance for them and defend them in this.
Let's take another story, Nation.
Let me take the human interest story. So, first of all, I'll take this 19-year-old student who, in Osun State, a 19-year-old student of Ipetu Ijesha College of Technology. The name is Olunade Tomiwa, was found dead, had committed suicide by hanging on a telephone cable, and the police have confirmed the incident. But also on Saturday at the Chukwuemeka Odumego Ojukwu University in Anambra State, three 200-level students were found dead in their hostel. They said the school had closed since August 24, and so I guess it was a surprise to find these bodies in the room. There's no report yet on what may have happened, but the three of them, their names were given, and they were all in. One was in a political science student, another pharmacy student, and also a business admin student, all in 200 level. May their souls rest in peace, and hopefully find out what happened to them. Okay,
let me take the story on a young 29-year-old Nigerian defrauded the New York State for $30 million. Guess what? Was posed as a ventilator supplier. So this happens during the COVID era where the scheme was tried. It was like was some kind of a spam email that was sent. Say work from home jobs. When person responded to if you respond to the work from home job, they have a conspirator also in the US who posed as a medical supplier and equipment supplier. So you get a cut. The system was just kind of phony, but the idea was that they were able to get up $1 million on the first transaction. I got $1 million in the first transaction, and that's what spurred them on, especially now when after ventilator became in demand. Yes. So it was easy for them to make a lot of money. But now he's been found and he risked getting 621 years in jail. That's a long time.
That's lifetime. Another story. This one is actually
the Brazilian?
sad. No, bandits demand 50 million naira to free a woman after giving birth. So this woman, they are a Kaduna-based family. They went to visit their mom who went through a surgery and was recovering. So the three daughters were at home in the Mando outskirts of Kaduna. The father's name is Malam Abdulwahab Yusuf. These three daughters, his three daughters have been kidnapped, one of them heavily pregnant. This happened July 17th. She's given birth while in captivity without medical assistance or any human assistance. And the entire four of them now, that's 3 women and a baby, are still held in captivity. They were asked to pay 140 million naira as ransom, which they said they did not have. And now it's been reduced to 50 million, which they still don't have. So while they are crying out that the mother who they came to take care of that was able to walk. After the kidnapping, she can no longer work without the aid. She's now on wheelchair due to the trauma, and they are begging government to intervene, help them. People should help them raise the funds so that they can bring the mother and the child and the other daughters out of captivity.
Moving on quickly now to the Punch. Federal government may lose 7.58 trillion to contract disputes and damages. Picture here: tribute as Queen Elizabeth's coffin arrives Edinburgh. Lagos school fence collapses, kills 2 pupils. SANS prof to defend ASU before industrial court. FG loses 13.21 million barrels, oil worth 609 billion naira in 2022. And 500 senior doctors left Nigeria, says medical body. Okay, story. Are we starting with
Very sad, really, really sad story of two children, Samad Saheed and another child. Samad Saheed is 3-year-old, another child, 9-year-old girl. At the time of the reports, they couldn't get her name. But there's this school called Covenant Point Academy, and it has a fence. And they said this little boy, Samad Saheed, was playing just beside the fence. His mother's shop is right beside the fence, and he was playing in that area, and the fence collapsed on the poor child, and he died instantly. The 9-year-old girl had been sent on an errand. I was just walking past the area when the fence collapsed. They said she was unconscious, but died later in hospital. They could not identify her immediately because she didn't live in the immediate area. Her parents had sent her on an errand, and they were looking for her eventually before they were... so the thing is, on further investigation, they found out that that particular fence didn't have a pillar. They were just blocks stacked up on each other. And eventually, of course, this has happened. The government they said the owner of the school has been arrested. And I guess more investigation, but this is truly, truly sad. And
okay, let me take the picture story. So tributes, lots of mourners on Sunday lined up the streets as Queen Elizabeth remains made it on the streets of Edinburgh to pay their tributes to the late Queen. According to the story, I think today she'll be moving to London. So right now there was something called, she passed through the villages of Aberdeen and Dundee before making it to Edinburgh, which was yesterday, and a lot of mourners, people came to pay their last respects. A lot of tourists drove long hours to just come and see her. So based on this report, on Monday, the coffin will proceed down the Royal Mile to St. Giles Cathedral for its service of prayer. And then the king and the Queen consort, we'll still talk about her another day, will come there to pay the last respects, and people in the house, those people who have worked in the palace, would also pay their last respects. We're waiting for it to then come. The coffin will then eventually come to London Tuesday evening, where it will be there for lying in state, where people can now come to pay their last respect to the Queen. And they've set the date for the actual funeral to be September 19th. So many world leaders are expected to be in attendance.
A major headline.
Let me go on a quick break. When I come back, we'll take the major headline. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we have a major headline in Punch.
Yes, so the Punch article has, exposed how much we might lose to, trade and contract disputes. According to this article, 7.58 trillion is the total cost Nigeria is looking to face in trade disputes. So from the Mambila Power Project trade dispute, we're presently doing mediation at the one the federal government talked about, when they were able to reduce it to 496 million naira. $1 million compared to the 5.2 billion, which was originally, the subject of the trade dispute. Those are issues that are resolvable at mediation, but there are some that are in courts, international courts abroad. There are some that are at alternative dispute resolution in other international chambers of commerce across the world. And from power to steel to the MPA to airport to the airport concessions, there are several contracts that the federal government have not been able to see through, and some that have been frustrated, like one with where the Steve Doran Servicing Company is suing Shell Production Development Company for frustrating their access to the MPA ports, where they're supposed to build a dock, a carrying dock. And so these several contracts like that are outstanding, and the government presently is in dispute. But the Minister for Justice says that if there's any government that can resolve these issues favorably on behalf of Nigerians, is this government, and they're on top of the situation. Okay,
moving on quickly now to Daily Sun. Catholic Bishop direct churches to beef up security. Uncertainty over Wike IU talks. Atiku unveils plan at editors' forum tomorrow. 22 SANS, 24 other lawyers to defend ASU as hearing of FG suit begins today. Ex-PPRO petitions Abia CP over detention of ex-police officer's wife and demand for 44,000 naira bail fee. All theft NNPCL loses $700 million monthly. Uba escapes death as gunmen attack convoy. Military security agencies comb hotspots in FCT. And nab 10 suspected terrorists, says informants. Okay?
Yeah, so NNPCL, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has said that it loses 470,000 barrels per day, amounting to $700 million monthly due to oil theft. And this, with other security challenges, has made it difficult to produce oil at some terminals. They even disclosed that this is happening in spite of all the security measures that they have put in place, and these measures are even controlled digitally to try and stop the trend of oil theft, but, to no avail. The group general manager of National Petroleum Investment Management Services, Balawunti, tried to explain to us, she broke it down in a way that we could see how much we lose per day due to insecurity and oil theft. She says that about 270 barrels that are supposed to be loaded in Bonny are no longer being loaded because of theft. Mm-hmm. She also said, she broke it down. I think it will take too long, but it will be good to read it, how, it amounts to how much money that we lose. Also, production does not have about 150,000 barrels that would have been, added to what we produce daily is not doing. We are unable to do that because of security challenges. And also other terminals, vandalism, insecurity, illegal siphoning by community members, things like that. So many things affecting our oil production and the amount of money we could have been making from that.
All right, let's take another story, son.
Okay, so the police ex-PRO. So the next police PRO, Zone 9 in Umahia, Abia State, Ima Jiakpona, has petitioned the Commissioner of Police of Abia State over detention of a wife of a former police officer. Now, this former police officer, according to the story, as you know, while in active service, suffered some health issues that made him totally blind. And because of that difficulty, he's gone into debt. And somebody he was owing went to the Isiala Ngwa North, Ngwa police station, Isiala Ngwa North, to get him arrested over that 50,000 naira debt he was owing. And because of that, the DPO of that police station held his wife and demanded bail. Now, within the police, we are finding out bail is not free. The PRO is now saying, even though the law says that bail is free, they did not release that woman until monies were paid. Over 30,000, the DPO asked for 30,000 naira bail, 4,000 counter money. They kept demanding money. The children were able to raise 10,000 of the money. And, the woman was held till this issue was petitioned. Right. Sadly, the DPO is denying. The woman IPO who investigated the case is denying, but the family says that, and the DPO says the woman has since been released, and I don't know any of these things that she's been, the commissioner has been petitioned about, but the facts are there that, the woman was held for, number one, for issues of debt. So the police is not a debt recovery agency. That's for one.
But they do that.
There's a crime, but they do.
Okay, let me take this story because those living in Abuja have been living in fear since the Kuje prison release. Many people are always scared, but the police here is saying that the Nigerian Army, Armed Forces, and the DSS and the Civil Defense Corps and other security operatives have been conducting several raids for some time now. They've arrested over 10 suspected bandits, terrorists, and informants within the FCT. They also destroyed quite a number of camps, strongholds of the criminal located in Jabi, Zuba, Kaduna Road, and other popular market cities. So just to let those living in Abuja know that they are working to ensure that all the hotspots of terrorists within that zone are being arrested and taken down.
The Catholic bishops, under the umbrella of Catholic Bishop Conference Nigeria, the president of the CBCN, Most Reverend Lucius Ugoji, was speaking at the Sacred Heart Pastoral Center, addressing the challenges many churches are facing. A lot of bishops, Catholic bishops, have been kidnapped. He said, we're passing through what might be deemed as the darkest chapter of our history as a nation. Extreme poverty, soaring unemployment, spiraling inflation, collapsed economy with increased debt burden and worsening insecurity. He's saying, and in preferring solution, he's saying the obvious solution would be good governance and reducing the extreme poverty that we are facing, that we must reduce unemployment, hardship, crime, and violent conflicts in these difficult times. That he also mentioned that there is a heavy annual budget on security, even after repeated assurances from government officials that they are doing all that they can. The government must wake up to their responsibilities and take adequate measures. Final
paper, because we don't have much time. Vanguard, Nigeria going through darkest history, says Catholic bishops. Undo court orders arrest of 2 self-acclaimed monarchs. Ifeanyi Uba's convoy ambush in Amrambra, many killed. Intense lobbying as APC, PDP, LP leaders form campaign councils. Kwakonso not stepping down for Atiku or Tinubu. And strike FG6 accelerated hearing of case against ASU.
The senator, Ifeanyi Uba, representing Anambra South Senatorial District, unfortunately, his convoy was attacked, said, by heavily armed men. According to the report, he escaped, but some eyewitnesses are saying that he may have escaped with injuries because his own car was riddled with bullets. So many of his aides were reported to have died, policemen as well. And I guess we'll hear the outcome of the investigation. The police have confirmed that this has happened. Really shocking.
Kwakwanso's public spokesperson has come out to say that he doesn't understand why they keep spreading the rumor. His principal is going to contest at 2023 elections. At no point will they step down. This is in response to the social media tweets that came out that Kwakwanso was going to step down for...
Okay. We can't take any more stories, but let me just read out the major headline in The Point. Nigerians flee as hunger bites harder. Insecurity casts dark clouds over 2023 general elections. And Isan bemoans harsh economy, charges CBN to up purchasing power of Nigerians. That is all we can take on front page review. When we come back, move on to our hot topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So there are lots of current untold economic hardship in Nigeria. Many parents are finding it extremely difficult to cater for their children's school fees and other academic obligations due to the increment in tuition fees, rising food inflation, incessant strike in the prices of consumables, as income and salary remain the same in recent years and a bid to generate revenue at all costs. Now, many are complaining and people are worried that the rising cost is making it difficult for them to even meet their academic obligations for their children. What are your thoughts on this? What are your experiences? Have you experienced this? Later on the show, we'll be having the president of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, Chief Yomi Udubara, will be joining us in a moment. But first, we'd like to hear your own views on this. You can call us on the numbers on your screen. Tope, let me start with you. And this conversation is always difficult for me because as I'm growing and working with the Ministry of Education and so I have some information. I'm thinking to myself, okay, yes, we would like to complain about the fact that things aren't getting better. People are not earning more. School fees seem to be increasing. But the question is, how do you think we can cope? Especially because everywhere we know, people pay for education. Education is not cheap. Over the years, people actually, education in many countries is not cheap. But in our own country, education is subsidized. A lot of times, our public schools are subsidized. And what we are paying, if we see the equivalent to other economies, even within Africa, we see it's almost nothing. But we keep complaining. Though, as I said, rise of inflation, obviously, is not making us earn as much anymore. So what do you think we can do?
We need to unpack it. Primary education, globally, because it's seen as basic education.
Yes.
If you don't get it right at primary, you'll be churning out, your citizens will not be able to add value to your economy if they don't get that basic foundation. That, for me, in every serious economy, should be free.
Absolutely.
And it should be quality free. And in many serious economies, it is quality free. the challenge we have is, let's not use Lagos as a benchmark. Lagos, despite the fact none of us have our children in public schools, by the way, and majority of Lagosians don't have their children, let me not use majority of middle-class Lagosians don't have their children in the public schools at primary level because they feel it is not going to give us the quality to add the value we want our children, the quality of value we want our children to add in the future. So I totally understand the complaints. The government might say they are trying because they are looking at the books. But we need to, yes, look at the books, but look at the human beings as well. And when you look at the human beings, you realize that there's a lot of room for improvement at that basic level. Of course, as you go higher in terms of secondary school, it will be costing more. University education worldwide is cheap. It is expensive as compared to Nigeria. Even the private universities in Nigeria are still cheap as compared to international universities abroad. That's the truth. So on the university level, I don't think that our private universities are doing badly, but our public universities have been on strike for over 200 days. So obviously, it's nothing to write home about. Do we have an educational crisis? Yes. Do we have a financial educational crisis? Yes, because everybody is now struggling to make money by every means possible to give their children a bit of advantage. And that is putting a lot of strains on families.
So the strain, so I'm not linking the strain with the level of education we expect. So, for example, I'm a parent, and I'm saying, your tuition fees are too expensive, I can't afford it. And the teacher is, the owner is saying, listen, I can't pay good teachers with what you're paying me. You pay me 25,000 naira, for example, per term. If you look at some federal schools, you're paying me that. I can't feed your children. I can't pay the cleaners. I can't pay the gatesman. I can't pay the police because now we're having security issues. I can't pay my teachers. There are many factors. So how do we begin to marry our economic and social realities with the educational system or the quality of education we expect?
So the government has a huge problem, and all of us agree. Because the issues we're complaining about, the Catholic Church is saying that the churches are having to increase budget for security, almost more than infrastructure. As a country, too, we're increasing budget for security. Schools are increasing budget for security, almost more than what is going into the system to develop the system. So the issue is, you might, even if we take away the costs and the challenges of the cost, the country itself and the environment has put a lot of strain on everybody.
Yeah. So should parents... So, yeah, let me somebody here come in here.
As you are talking, my mind is just thinking we need to find creative ways to be able to afford education. And I guess this is where parents will come in. Also, financial institutions do this now. All sorts of insurance to help with parents as, you know, towards education. You're putting money aside. When you have a boom, you're able to put some money aside in projection of what, you know, could happen in future. Those are the ways I feel that parents can help. But the truth is, education will only keep getting more expensive, whether we like it or not. In another, I was talking to someone much younger than me. I was saying, by the time you start having children, the amount, you know, she was talking about a school bag I got. I said, by the time you start having children, this school bag will be 100 times the price. It's just the reality of life. And the only thing we have to do is keep working hard. And then this is where, whether we like it or not, this is where we now determine the sort of government and leaders that we want. They need to understand that these are the realities on ground and these are our issues. And what we want is, okay, create for us an enabling environment. We can take away security costs from schools if the government is able to do its job concerning protecting schools, making sure that insecurity is not a problem anymore. We're talking of minimum wage. We have to do better. We need to block all the holes where it comes to our revenue. We're talking about theft in the oil industry. We cannot be losing that amount of money, I mean, as a government, and still going through insecurity and still going through all the other economic challenges. Plus that, our government needs to sit up. Our people now understand these are our challenges, and so it's only those who can make sure that these things are solved, you know, going forward, that can help us.
So I didn't want to fall into the trap, because the usual thing for us, when we hear economic hardship, we can't pay school, and just come and lament. I didn't want to go through that route, because we do it all the time. But sometimes we have to look at it holistically. It's one thing, yes, we can sit down and say, lament, I can't pay school, and why are they increasing tuition? I can't afford this, it's expensive. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have a school that is not being able to pay their teachers, and teachers don't show up in school to be able to teach my child? Nima, let me come to you on your thoughts. Yes, I know we are complaining that the tuitions have increased, we can't afford it, economic realities are before us. But do you think this our cry is justifiable at this time?
It is, and especially because government has forgotten and neglected what is most important. So we constantly see the naira losing value. We see the inflation going higher. We see, families having to decide how costs should go. In those days, parents would just do a scale of preference and take out one thing and provide what is most important, what is priority, which is education for children. It has become a necessary expenditure. You cannot neglect it. And the cost of quality education has even become more necessary in our present times. So parents cannot now scale it and say, let's remove this, let's remove that. Which is why when you see NLC go on strike, sometimes, because of the way they carry that issue and maybe water it down, you might not see the seriousness of what we're talking about. An average Nigerian banker here, what he earns and what's the present reality of the value of what he earns, his purchasing power is so low compared to somebody doing the same job in some other climes. And so you see why they're asking government, you need to do more. Nobody hates government. We just want to be able to afford basic. So if I earn 200,000 and the value of 200,000 can give me my basic, who will be on strike? The lecturers presently are saying, federal government is proposing a 23% increase, which will put them at 800,000. They're saying, back. Because the reality is that as a lecturer, maybe by the time you get to professorship, your first child is already in university. If you put the value of quality university education, which is not here, on that money, you can afford it, except you are cutting corners. And so the corruption will continue to go. People will continue to cut corners, which is why we're asking government to do better. Nobody's asking government to subsidize everything. Make it work. Create an avenue where the naira is exchanged and is strengthened. What you earn, you will not have to look out. People will be thinking, until I earn dollar, until doctors leave this country, they don't get the value of their profession.
You're taking an interesting part. Because this is the part that I'd like to talk about, this thing you're talking about here, but I don't want to veer off into this. But let me go on the break when we come back. Because we need our dollars. And there are so many of us squandering our dollars that is not helping our own economy. And we know it, but let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll talk about education. Stay with us, right back.
Stick to education.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. You see, this conversation was getting interesting because Nima was taking us to the issue of dollar, but let us not go there because if we go there,
no,
we'll not finish.
I want to take you to the issue of dollar. It's not just dollar.
Yeah, I get the point.
The fact that almost
we are not able to invest in education
Manufacturers Association of Nigeria last week were in the papers all through asking state governments, asking federal governments to find a way to assist businesses not to shut down.
I get you.
When the naira is not being exchanged for anything. Absolutely. I'm not talking about you having dollar. I'm saying that we don't have anything
the reason why I was laughing,
as a country.
Nima, was that over the weekend, I bought this. I made this lovely pot of stew that had crab in it. Those big crabs, so luscious. And as I was eating and enjoying my stew, I said, okay, this is dollar. Because these are crabs that are not Nigerian. They're those foreign crabs that are imported. So somebody has gone to use our hard-earned dollar to go and import this crab that I'm cooking in my pot. So I am equally part of the problem. This is our desire to just... That's why I was saying that I was laughing when you were talking, because if we all check, we are all parts of, we're all contributing somewhat to the fact that people like you or you who want to do real business to manufacture so government can have money to invest in schools properly. We are part of the problem. But let's not go there. Let's go back to education.
Education. So here is one thing that I find very confusing. I realize that a lot of parents groan and complain out of thinking that it is the most expensive school that will give my children the best foundation. Not necessarily true. Sometimes it might seem like it's a small mushroom school, but the time that you as a parent invest in your child and taking your child through that process of educating them. So they come out from school, you check what they've done, you go through that process, it's a sacrifice. But in turn, it can give your children a better outcome in the future. We have this conversation. We're talking about oh, what schools should our children go to? There are many schools around me that pay like ×2 what I pay for my children's school fees. My children's school fees is not cheap, but compared to all the other schools around, I'm so grateful for missionary secondary, missionary primary schools, and I'm hoping to move it to a missionary secondary school just so that we can remain in that affordable bracket. But many people are struggling to put their children in high-end schools when they cannot afford it.
Okay, so that's one angle. That's one angle, Tope. But you see, I'm looking forward to getting Mr. Odubela because he's I think he's the president of private schools. And my issue is that lots of I don't call them low income, let me just say low income private schools are out there. And many of them are not delivering value. So, for example, I am a tailor right now, or I'm a driver, and I just don't want my child to go to public school because public schools just have this bad reputation. So I want to feel like I'm taking my child to a private school. And I find a lower income private school. I don't talk about international school. It's already international for me, and I take my child there. Now, those ones increase their prices indiscriminately because they're not being properly regulated. Those ones are the ones that take advantage of Nigeria. So these people are crying and saying, I can't afford school fees. They are forcing us to pay XYZ because many of these private schools who are not at that level are just taking advantage of these poorer low-income earners who don't want to take their children to public school. So the real problem is who is regulating this huge bracket because there are lots of them.
So I'm in that space where I feel like, when our missionary schools came, there was no AC in classes. You know, they didn't have AC in classes. The entire money that was going to the school was for the basic. Pay the teachers. And they pay the teachers what teachers deliver. Yeah. The facility was basic facility. Yeah. It was not all the touche, screen, all of that. No. There was barest minimum, and they were able to deliver. The mushroom primary schools just need, not mushroom, the low-income, smaller primary schools just need to focus on what is most important. And what is most important is can we get the teachers to deliver? If all the income in the school is going towards paying quality teachers, they can afford to deliver with small money.
Now, where would you reach so? Even the high-income private schools charge as high as whatever they think they are worth. But the teachers don't get that. Ask one-on-one each of the teachers. You see how frustrated some of them are. In schools where they give them loan to go and take courses, they will rip them. During COVID, we had to intervene and pay some teachers, you remember? Who were teaching in private schools because public school teachers were still getting paid. But the private school teachers were excruciatingly suffering.
Absolutely.
So that the school is charging high doesn't make it commensurate to what the quality of education or the services the teachers are rendering. So that's another matter. That goes back to the Nigerian factor. We, the people, we, the school proprietors, are we doing the needful? Let me take this call. Good morning. Are you there? They're businessmen. All they think about is profits.
Good morning, sir. Are you there? Not all of them.
Yes, I'm there.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hello.
You're live on TV. Go ahead, madam.
Well, the question of education in Nigeria in general, we have to be honest with ourselves. All these outside countries that we are comparing Nigeria with, education is expensive and this and that. They have worked for so many years continuously on their education system. They have invested in it. Most of them are giving grants, they are giving loans, they are giving so many things that the country is so good economically that when those children finish school, they are going to be able to pay back. We don't have that structure here. The government schools are not good. What our political appointees and all the government things are consuming, if they cut it into half and put it into education, this country is a better place. Number two, since when I was in primary school, they say education is free. It has never been free. Because I thought in government primary school, I went to school in 1955 to something in primary school. It was never free. I carried my exercise book, my mother bought. I didn't have standards. School uniform was bought from my mother. The only thing we didn't do is to pay teachers. Look, we have to invest in education in this country. There is a lot of wastage in governance here. If we put it into education, it will be better. Now, who doesn't want good education for his child? Even if you are telling vegetable in the market. You want children.
Thank you very much. You see, there was an argument recently. See the model colleges that have been paying 25,000 naira per term for many years. And I think recently the Ministry of Education tried to review it to 75,000 naira because they actually have to break it down. If I'm paying 25,000 naira per term, you cannot. There's no way I can pay my teachers. There's no way that I think I'm not sure if it's feeding the feeding also. I think it's also feeding is also free. So feeding is not free, but it's part of the cost. I can't buy your children food with this amount anymore. It's no longer sustainable. And then there was a huge uproar. No, you can't change the school fees, 25,000 naira. I was thinking, the reality is that as much as I agree, yes, our economic realities are not optimal, but the truth is that there are times we have to review. And Nigerians will be willing to pay for the service that we demand. So yes, school, you're right in the sense that school is not free all, because even though you say school free education, you still buy a few things here and there. But parents must be willing to pay for good. If you can't complain about the educational system, if you don't pay, one of the private universities, I remember one of the proprietors of the private universities in Nigeria, was saying confidently how much he pays his school, his professors, his lecturers. They're well paid. They're in comparison with them and other universities abroad. He's paying them well. So now, they can't go on strike because they have a functional university.
Yes.
But ASU is saying the same thing, that you're not paying us in comparison. But what you're paying us is not commensurate to what our counterparts are earning across board. So, yes, she's right. We're not investing in education. But what is the role we also are playing in this matter?
Yeah, so if you talk about... so that is why people would go to more expensive schools. And the idea of more expensive schools, of giving investigation, because a parent does not just put a child in school because, oh my God, look at how expensive it is.
Must be good.
They do their proper investigation. What are the things that they are providing with this amount of money? And parents are making sacrifices. That a child is in a particular school does not mean that you're largesse. There are some people that are able to put their children in a particular school, but they don't have the luxuries that you have decided to put your child in less expensive schools that you have. So a parent can decide, oh, I'm going to put my child in an affordable school, which is affordable to that person, or low-income school. But I'm going to do this with my money, do that with my money. I'm doing self-care with my money. Do you understand? Some people are like, put the self-care aside. My investment is in this child. And whatever. So parents are constantly having to juggle these different options.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, good education costs money. Whether we like it or not, teachers that do their best and give their best usually are in schools that pay them, what they are worth.
Yeah.
You have dissatisfied teachers, you have dissatisfied workers in school where, they are supposed to be doing so well. And they're giving their best, and they're not seeing that in the amount that they're being paid as salaries. And parents too, after a while, I feel that even as a parent, if you go to a school where you're paying a certain amount of money, it's good to find out how much these teachers are earning. It should be one of the things that you look at, because eventually it will tell you how dissatisfied a teacher could be and how it may eventually, affect you.
Yeah.
So the truth is, education will be expensive from now going forward, but the government can do something, especially when it comes to basic education. Basic education should not be expensive, truly. You pay the teachers, you provide infrastructure. The infrastructure is done once every 5 years, once every 10 years. Then you pay the teachers. And, I mean, most people, and public school, people going to public school, is not really about, oh, I don't want to be seen going to public school. It's because of the reputation it has had over the years.
Right.
There are people who can beat their chest today and say, I went through public schools, public primary, secondary, and university. And it's a thing of pride because the schools have proven. But over the years, we've seen public schools just become, just a structure, and people that are not educated or willing to be teachers are just pushed there. And what do you expect?
Let me take this call from Olariwaju from London. It's been holding. Good morning. Are you there?
Hello, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for keeping me waiting for 10 minutes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I want to say something. You always compare Nigeria education with other people abroad. I want you to realize something. The standard of living is different. Like Elijah said before, if they are paying 50,000 and that 50,000 is enough and they can manage it, both their education for transportation to go to work, there won't be any corruption. You were here last time. Remember, ask your brother, he got a business here.
Olariwaju, let me ask you a question.
Let me tell you something. No income earner here Government help them. Everything is from government. They help them if you are low-income earner.
Right.
I'm telling you, okay, someone taking 30,000 in Nigeria. How can he pay for school fees? How can he go to work? It's
Right.
not right. It's not good.
Right.
Government need to do better.
Okay. Olarawaji, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
A lot of Nigerian doctors that live in your country, in the UK right now, they were trained and raised in this country. We sent them to school. Nigeria sent them to school, right? Now, imagine the cost of what we used to send them to school. Can that figure educate anybody in London? Somebody who graduated as a doctor in Nigeria, the amount of money he paid through school, can that money pay somebody in the UK to go to even secondary school? That's the conversation we're having.
No.
So what I'm saying is that we're not comparing economies. What I'm saying is that if you want us to improve education, there's a part of the government, the smallest and easiest and cheapest conversation is say, oh, it's government's fault. Yes, that's a given. A 2-year-old baby will tell you that. Standard. But we must also remember that we, the people, have something to do in this also. That's the conversation, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mora, let me ask you a question. Okay, are you talking about only doctor? What about other people studying other subjects? Like
economic, business, administration?
Business, yeah. Okay, people supposed to do 3 years course or 4 years course.
Yes.
They spend 7 years.
Absolutely.
And then every year, these people have to pay money
Absolutely.
to the school. So how do you work that out? Someone, anytime he has someone in university, he has a child in primary school, he has a child in secondary school. How can he maintain? How can he do without any corruption?
All right, thank you, Mr. Olarawaji. Thank you for engaging me there for a second. Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, I'll take Mr. Udubela, who's been waiting to speak to us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So joining the conversation is the president of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, Chief Yomi Odubela. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So there are a few layers we've been talking about before you came in. We're talking about cost of schools have increased and parents are complaining because they can't afford the these increments in tuition fees, school books, and all the various things they need to pay in schools. That's on one end. Second issue we have raised is I would like to say maybe the low income, I don't know if that's the right word, public-private schools that are not well regulated. So many of those schools sometimes increase fees without proper regulation. So they do it indiscriminately based on their own circumstances. What's your association doing to curb that indiscriminate increase by these schools who just do it without any proper regulation?
All right, thank you so much for having me on this discourse. I want to start from the last questions that has to do with school regulation. Predominantly, regulation of schools, generally both private and public, is the statutory role of government under the Ministry of Education, then with the Department of Quality Assurance. And they are saddled with the responsibility according to the law, and they are to ensure that all schools, both public and private, follow the laid down minimum rules and regulations. We can only do an oversight function. The oversight function is to call government attention to any shortcomings that is witnessed in any of these schools, and this we have done to the best of our knowledge through engaging government in several fora, through our national conferences, through meeting with the Ministry of Education of all the states and including the federal government, through the National Council on Education, that is the highest policy making on education in Nigeria. And we have had issues when challenges arises from these schools, and we had engaged government to see how we can better ensure that some ugly situations that have been recorded in the past do not repeat itself. So that is the function we play in that regards.
Okay.
So there are a few things. You already said that you're more of oversight duty. If somebody was to report a primary school or a secondary school to you that the classroom is overpopulated and the price jumped maybe like 100% increase, if they report to you, what can you do? What will be the process for you? How can you influence or help the parents who find themselves in a situation where they were paying 50,000 naira and then just within a term they are moved into 100K and the class capacity is increased, they feel it's not going to deliver quality to their children?
Yes. Funny enough, we had not recorded any of such reports of indiscriminate increase of private schools. There is a natural tendency of controlling the issue of demand and supply in a free economy like ours. Government had made the opening of private school so open for those who can afford to put in place the minimum standard. So in fixing fee, the natural tendency of demand and supply dictates what fee an average school can charge. And we have seen many schools, private in particular, that have closed down their operations because their income could not meet up their day-to-day operational costs. And they could not have the power to increase beyond what they are currently charging. So this has made some of these schools to close down shop and dispose of their facilities. So these tendencies is what controls what individual school can charge, because government has so much given that opportunity for opening of private school to be open to all and sundry. Virtually, will you see a street or two streets that you don't have one school or the other? And for parents who also find that the existing school their children are attending is affordable, there is also opportunity to get a transfer from a given school to another, even from private to public schools. So I think, to me, the natural tendencies is taking charge of this, and that is sufficient for parents.
Let me jump in here for a second. Let me jump in here for a second, because what you just said made me think to myself that it's like the parents right now are unfortunately having to be faced with a situation whereby every Tom, Dick, and Harry has started a school. So I understand, because it's almost impossible for even the Lagos State government to be able to trace every single private school, because Mrs. John has, in her bedroom, has converted her downstairs house. They won't even know there's a school there. So it's almost impossible for this government to know every school. I understand that. But as a body, is there a way you can support government? Because if I'm a parent of a child in a school that is not registered, because from what you said, it's not all the schools that are registered. I mean, the government doesn't know they exist. So is there any way you as a body can support the government where you can ensure you can bring all these people under one umbrella and say, we need to know who you are, where you are, what you do, to support you. At least let us have a number of how many private schools do we have in this country?
I disagree totally with you that government cannot know all the schools that are existing in the country, because these schools do not operate in the sky. They operate in one street or the other. And beside that, there have been collaboration between our association, National Association of Operators of Private Schools, and government officials concerning indiscriminate of opening private schools. We have a challenge of situation whereby the policy of government is in the direction of access to education more than quality of education. And where government had failed to provide quality education to all deserving children, this gave room for opening of schools, including the unapproved schools. And as many as schools that are opened, the information is out there in the public. Our association had called, I repeat, we have called government attention to this indiscriminating opening of school. But if government feel there are some areas that are new sites that government attention had not reached, and government does not have plan to reach them in the close period of time, they often allow schools to open indiscriminately, and they try to do little. I wouldn't say they don't attempt. Recently, the Quality Assurance in Lagos State had launched an online registration for all schools, which is both for all private schools, either registered or not registered. They are supposed to register their schools, and government could follow up with them. That is ongoing. Before this current administration, the administration before Governor Sanwo-Olu also did what we call school census, where members of the Ministry of Education from, apart from the state ministry offices, we have the district offices that reside in each of the zones.
Yeah.
We also have education departments in all local governments of the country. So it is possible for this team to come together to do what we call education census, to know where this school exists. Recently, Universal Basic Education from Abuja, with their counterpart in each state, the state's Universal Basic Education called SUBEB, work in conjunction with UBEC, the federal counterpart, work with private school, National Association of Operators of Private School, NAPS, works with individuals that are into education, NGO,
get the numbers, yeah.
And they conducted population of all learners, teachers, schools, and facilities that are available. This is published on Universal Basic Education website. You could assess that and see the number of schools that exist, both registered and unregistered. So government have this information and they can deal with this situation.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still talking very quickly on education, and we still have Chief Odubela with us. Nima, Mariam had a question. Final one, please.
I wanted to ask Chief Odubela if, the factors that we consider here is why, school fees will just continue to go up. Is it just that inflation as is going up, what is affecting? Is it just cost of production, or as schools invest in their school, whatever the cost they invest, you know the way they say it, that ogata kind of thing. So is it because I put in new features in my school?
Say it in English.
That I'm sure he understands.
Some of us, we don't understand.
Maybe because, you put in new features, you renovate your school, and because of that, school fees must go up. Or just that the cost of inflation and the way the economy is what is influencing the increments.
Chief, did you
Thank you so much, Chief. I'm happy to speak on.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you have answered the questions by yourself. All the parameters you have mentioned have come to play in determining what the school will charge, including the facility, maintenance, replacement, renovation, teachers' overhead costs, and cost of providing instructional material in this modern day where technology is leveraged upon to teach. Inflation, everything that can affect human existence economically wise has affected school. The facility you spoke about to be maintained from time to time. The cost of buying paint, a bulk of paint, has doubled. The cost of the artisans who apply this paint had tripled. the cost of maintaining teachers in school had gone so much. So everything had been affected, including the cost of producing books, which has affected the cost of textbooks too.
Well,
so at the end of the
day, really, we've not really solved the problem. But the point is that school fees will continue to increase. Obviously, our economic realities are such that many people can't afford it. But the truth is that there's nothing we can do at this time. So we have to leave the conversation hanging at this point. But thank you very much, Chief Odubela, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We'll bring you back because I'm very concerned about the numbers. I'm not being able to get an accurate number of private schools in this country. So now that I know that UBEC has done a research, which I'm aware of the census, we'd like to get the figure. It'd be nice to know exactly how many we have, how many are registered. It'd be good to have that.
Mariah, I will get you this information. I can share them with you personally.
Yeah.
I will give you a link.
Okay.
And I must say this, that one of the reasons why we have most unregistered schools in existence and most unqualified personality into school ownership is because even government recognize association of unregistered schools. So where that happened, there will be little we can do. Thank you for having me once again. I will always be available.
Thank you. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we're bringing a special guest. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So join us on the show is the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Planning and Coordination and Coordinator, Imagine Nigeria Technical Secretariat, Larry Shashe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to
so much
have
for
you.
having me.
So we heard about your role, and we're thinking to yourself, planning and coordinating what exactly? Because we know that your project came to the fore during COVID. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, really, so my role supports policy broadly, and as you mentioned, one of the and basically supporting and incubating high priority projects in the Office of the Vice President. And Imagine Nigeria is one of those. And really it was something that we worked on during COVID, basically, because as everybody knows, the COVID pandemic provided an opportunity, I think, for everyone to reset, because everything had to shut down first. So we thought for the country, this provided an opportunity to think about how we want to see the progress of the country over the next 30 years. So it provided that opportunity to reset, think about it. What are our goals? What do we see for the future of Nigeria? So the idea was then to conduct this study, which was a future study, basically to develop scenarios for Nigeria. What are the variables in the world today? What are the variables in Nigeria? How do we see mega trends in the world? And what does that mean for Nigeria? And what is Nigeria's place in the world in the future? And what are the things that we need to do as a country to ensure that our country is successful in the future?
There's so many, the general consensus, I don't have particular data, but, there just seemed to be a lot of unhappiness about the state of affairs in our country, the insecurity, and so many, and many times people express this, and I hear others say, the more you express negativity, the more negative things would happen. But some people are saying, no, it's because negative things are happening, and that's why we're expressing it. So I was wondering, what you do, is there a way, do you see that as true? That is what we say and how we project ourselves that actually makes life harder? Or that we have issues on ground, we really do have challenges, and these challenges, until they are solved, Nigerians will not have the hope that their country will be better?
So what you say is exactly right. I think it's half and half. So, of course, you have to be realistic about the issues. You have to be pragmatic about the issues that you have in your country. But a big part of it is also how we see ourselves. What are the stories that we tell ourselves? So I was saying in the study that, or in the development of the framework, we developed scenarios, and then we also worked with several people we conducted interviews and surveys with over 300 people across the country and globally as well, and to distill 5 recommendations for Nigeria's future. And one of the things that we thought that Nigeria needs to do in order to be successful in the future is to facilitate a national narrative. What are the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves? Because that's a big part of it. What is the myth of Nigeria? Who are we? Who do we think that we are? So one of the 5 recommendations that we identified was a national narrative. We have to decide on what stories we want to tell ourselves about ourselves. The other recommendations are that Nigeria ought to lead Africa in order to be successful in the future. The continent wants Nigeria to do that. Nigeria has the wherewithal to do that. It has done so in the past. It has the tools to do that, and it can continue to do so. Another recommendation is that we've got to build trust in our society. Resilient societies are those that work on increasing their trust within society, not just with government, but throughout society as well. The other recommendation was that Nigeria ought to build a culture of innovation. Who are we? Are we a country that builds innovation? So, and this needs to permeate through our national life, not just in government, in private sector, in academia, throughout. And then the final recommendation was that we ought to catalyze a green economy. And for us, as a fossil-based economy, it's a strategic, it is a pragmatic way to view the future.
It's very ambitious also.
It is. And what are we if not? What if not ambitious?
Not to sort of like color, because it sounds really interesting that there was a research and they were planning 30 years ahead, but not to be pessimistic. It just feels like, oh, I've come again. We have a challenge with continuity. We don't lack research and plans and knowledge and blueprints. What we've always had issues with is long-term implementation of research being done in the past. So I didn't even know this was going on. Sounds interesting. What would Nigeria look like? But how do we constitutionalize this role and this process that when you're not here, when this administration goes, another one would be compelled by law to enforce this wonderful plan that you've put together?
That's fantastic. Now, I don't have a law for you. However, what we are doing, having completed the study, and the Vice President did launch the study, what we're doing now is the dissemination of the document and the framework and the ideas in it. And we're doing this by engaging with all of society. Okay. We're doing it engaging with professional groups, NGOs, philanthropic organizations as well. So basically, the goal is for all of society to be engaged with these ideas. Whoever you are, if you are working on any part of this, be engaged on the ideas and implement them. Speak to your publics about it. Work with your publics about it. So whether you're Lagos Country Club or I don't know. The
Landlord Association?
Yeah, or the NBA. So that's the idea. Schools. So we're trying to work with communities to implement these ideas wherever you are. So we're also organizing events, Imaginate events as well, in various communities. So anybody who wants to host one can do so, can host an Imaginate event, having looked at the report.
So I was at an adult party once, and the mic was passed around to the kids around. And kids, one of them just said to say something about the country, and she said, Nigeria is finished. And, you know, the adults around, they sort of laughed because it was partisan to them. And I went home really, really sad. So I'm wondering if one of the avenues you're trying to do this is to catch them young. You know, when Morel talks about how movies are used to create the future, you know, children are made to believe in their own in movies. So I'm wondering, are you engaging those who are in the business of the psychology of children such that a child grows up and knows that this land is not finished, it's blessed, and they not only just say it, they believe it, such that if a mic were to be passed around in the future, the children around would even shut their mates down for saying such a thing about their country?
Please, I have this. I'll just add to it because it's very much like hers. But we have the American dream. What then will be the Nigerian dream concerning giving the recommendations?
That's exactly what we've got to find out. You remember I was just talking about the national narrative, and you're quite right. When you do ever get a chance to look at the documents in the facilitating national narratives, one of the things in there is to support storytellers who will tell the kind of stories that we want to tell about our country. I don't know, you've asked the question about the Nigerian dream. This is what we want all of society to engage in, to think about, whoever it is that you are. And I'm sure if we sat down, if we spent half an hour, we can, in this room, we can crystallize a Nigerian dream, because it's there. We work hard, we look good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a beginning.
Yes. I would have thought that was what the document was supposed to push.
So the document is a direction, it's a guideline. This is what we're trying to achieve. So now they're going to go out to the public and get everybody to engage on this 5.
That's just it. Yeah. It's up to us.
See, when you're talking about Larry, let's talk about... Okay, let's leave the kids now, because, you know, I believe that's where we should start. But when you go into a youth viewing football club full of youth, how do you sell this directive to one of those who are watching football? How would you change one person at a time?
Well, that's the work that we have to do. In the dissemination phase, we are working with people who are influencers, who can engage with young people to convey these ideas using all the tools that they get information through, things like social media, viewing centers eventually, and similar. So there's that. And I appreciate the point, and that's the work that we have to do. Ensure that we are able to vulgarize the message in a way that it resonates with everyone throughout society, because that's the work. That's exactly it. So once we
I know this is a fantastic idea, as everybody has said, but I think also that we have a trust issue.
Yes,
right?
And that's why building trust is one of the...
So, building trust is not really about writing it down and saying, okay, we need to build. It's something that's been done from top down. So, as we have this fantastic blueprint, I think the action that we must see top down is earning the trust of the people in different ways. I know that's not your area. I mean, that's not your job to do. But it's important that as we have these lovely niceties and, you know, write these things now, the people, the leaders must remember, people are concerned about what you do, not what you say, or not what you write. So how are you translating that to those people who you work with?
I don't fully understand the question. Your question is, how are we ensuring that everyone in society understands
the presidency? I'm talking to you, the presidency, the vice presidency are acting what they hope to. Are we acting? So there's a trust element in this top 5, right?
Yes.
I'm saying that trust is not something you write down and say, well, we have to earn trust. We've got to earn it. What are they going to do to earn it?
I agree. I absolutely agree. And there's so many different tools to do this.
Yeah.
Trust is not only there isn't only a deficit of trust between government and the people. It's also within society as well. There's so many tools that we can use. Again, if you get a chance to look at the document, you'll see that it also makes proposals for things like using technology, strengthening peace-building institutions, using the institutions that we have already that were supposed to do that, like things like NYSC, like federal government colleges. So really strengthening those, using technology as well to reach people, the way that we engage with people, it creates transparency as well, at least between government and the public. But also, as I said, trust is not only to be earned between government and the people, it's also within society as well.
So one of your recommendations, you mentioned innovation.
Yes, building a culture of innovation.
Fantastic. And we're here talking about how to translate documents to reality implementation.
Yes.
And we're talking about millions of children out of school. We're talking about our curriculum not being updated to, you know, what we have, our counterparts in the developed country. So in the document, I know we haven't seen it yet, but could you give us what the tools are to bridge the gap between innovation and the current state of our education right now?
And also, what's the role of the National Orientation Agency in this?
Their role is strong, because the National Orientation Agency has a desk in every local government across the country. So definitely they are well positioned to help to disseminate this kind of message along with several other initiatives from government. You were talking about innovation and how we can use it in education. Is that the question? And again, that's exactly it.
Right.
Innovation is how, that's exactly what we want to use to put into our educational system, to mainstream the way that we mainstream it into our educational system. That's just, we want to orient ourselves and our society to be one that builds a culture of innovation.
So
We
my
have to wrap
question,
up. We have to wrap up. Thank you so much, Larry, for coming. But do let us know when you start with going around the country trying to sensitize people. We'll be happy to support you because, as I said, we definitely need that reorientation across board for Nigerians. But thank you. Well done on the work done so far.
Thank you
and
so
we
much
hope
for
to
having me.
support in any way we can. So that's all we can take on the show today. Have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.